Guys, welcome back to Quick Notes with Chris. Today we're going to be talking about the book, The Cashflow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki. Robert Kiyosaki is a very successful investor and author. You probably know him from some of his previous books such as Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The Business of the 21st Century, and a few others. And this one really breaks down, I guess, a subgenre or something that he constantly references is in others' books. So if you want to have a further insight to what it is that he's talking about with the Cashflow Quadrant, this is an awesome book for you. I also highly recommend you really understand it and grasp it because it helps you understand the types of income that you want when it comes to how you're working. So first things first, I'm going to explain the Cashflow Quadrant. So within the Cashflow Quadrant, it basically breaks up the 4 different types of income there are in the world. Now, first one is an employee. It's probably the most common. Most people at some point work here. So employees are essentially people who trade their time for dollars. Now, the other one in the left side of the quadrant is also known as self-employed. So these are people who essentially run their own business, but they are also self-employed by it, meaning that they're also probably the number one worker within the business. Now, I'll explain that a little bit further. The next one is big business. So someone who owns a business, right? They're not self-employed, so they don't have to actively work there, but they are in the ownership category of owning their own business. And the last one is investments or investors, right? So these are the people who have a bunch of different income streams coming in through a bunch of different ways, and I'll explain them all a little bit further. So first things first, there's only 2 sides to the quadrant. So within the 4, there's always 2 sides, an active side and a passive side. So the left side is the active side. So here you're trading time for dollars. Now, a lot of people do this for different reasons. For example, an employee, most people get here because that's the first step that you have to go. If you weren't born into wealth, first thing you have to do, generally speaking, especially at a young age, if you started, let's say 12 to 14, is you're going to need to get a job, right? So this is how it starts. You have to just basically put your hours in, and then you get paid directly for the hours that you work on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. It's pretty normal. Most people do it. There's nothing inherently wrong with it. Okay, and then the next one is self-employed. So the reason why you do self-employed is because you value being your own boss, being in charge, right? You may not necessarily you value money, because in a lot of cases, self-employed actually make less and have to do way more hours, but at the end of the day, you do get to choose your own hours. You are your own boss. Now, the reason why you would be either an employee is because you value job security, right? There's no financial risk. You understand that the money that you do put in, the time that you do put in, you're guaranteed to get at least like 99% of the time a direct return for the money that you put in. Now, if you're self-employed, you're probably here because I already mentioned it, you want to be your own boss. Money might not be a number one motivator for you, but you do value being in charge of your time to a certain extent. Now, the problem with these two here is that you're always going to be restricted to the time that you have in the week. No matter what, you can't work beyond the hours there are in a week, and most chances it's probably about 10 hours per day. So what is so good about the other side? Well, on the other side, you have business owners or big business, right? So these are people who are essentially invested in businesses and are getting consistent returns. Now, the reason why you'd want to be a business owner is probably because of money, right? You get a lot of tax breaks and everything like that, and it's really awesome in terms of initially getting into. Now, the other one is investment. So these people who are in investments, these people care about the long term. They care about freedom. These are the types of people who are looking towards retirement. Now, the thing about retirement, remember guys, it's a mindset, it's not an age. So they're just looking towards having financial freedom, financial security. Now, so what's the problems with the passive side? Well, there is a level of financial uncertainty. Whenever going into the world of business, you're not 100% sure that it's going to make you a guaranteed return. But if it does, you also reap the benefits of a large reward. Same thing with investments. There's a level of financial uncertainty. However, in my personal opinion, it's 100% worth the risk. Now, how is it that the passive side end up utilizing in order to make money versus the active side? Well, they use something called OPTs and OPMs. So the passive side use other people's money and other people's time in order to create their income. Whereas an active person never use other people's money or other people's time. For example, a business owner is all about creating a team that's able to work together in order to essentially reap an income. Whereas a self-employed person is all about becoming the best in their profession. Do you understand the difference? So the person who wants to become the best in their the profession, whereas over in the business side, they care more about creating a team of people who are the best in their profession, right? Utilizing other people's time. Now, when you combine that with other people, with the investment quadrant, quadrant, they also talk about using other people's money as well as other people's time. And if they're smart enough, they can get a larger group amount together if they're able to convince a few people, and in order to make their profit, and so on and so on and so on and so on. So first thing you need to understand is that the reasons why you want to go into different quadrants and what it is that you value. If you value job security, then it's probably best if you sort of stay in the employee mindset. If you don't care too much about financial freedom, maybe it's not necessarily for you. If you care about being your own boss and that's the only thing that you care about, making sure that you are the best person at your business, then self-employed quadrant is for you. But if you're looking more towards financial security, then of course you're going to have to take a level of financial uncertainty, at least temporarily that is. And that's what the passive side is all about. It's about working one time smart and getting a consistent return over a certain period of time, making that investment of time or money to make sure that you do consistently benefit. Now, I suggest a lot of people sort of struggle because how is it you're meant to go from the active side, right, with no previous or prior knowledge, into the passive side? Well, that's where it sort of brings you into a lot of other business ideas and in terms that you can start looking into. But that's probably a book I can recommend called The Business of the 21st Century. If you're actively working in the active quadrant and you want to start moving over to the passive side, I highly suggest you read that book to give yourself a further insight, or better yet, watch our quick summary. Now, there are different, so obviously investments is probably the best quadrant. It's the quadrant that everybody wants to get into. How many people do you know, man, I want to get into real estate, get into real estate, right? I want to invest in property. Nobody says not to get into real estate, but how come not a lot of people do it? Well, the reason is because there's basically 5 different types of investors. So the first type is zero financial intelligence. So these people just have no idea what to do with their money. They invest in whatever willy-nilly because they have no idea, they have zero financial intelligence. There's nothing wrong with them, but they just do need to get educated in order to make better financial investments. Now, the second one are savers. Now, the book says savers are losers. Now, I understand that's a little bit confrontational, but the reason behind it is because basically people who are only working to save are playing to not lose. If you're putting your money in towards a bank account or hiding under a mattress, by default, you might make a little bit of profit, but by inflation, technically speaking, the chances are you're probably going to lower your overall net worth, right? In order to basically reap an income, you have to be willing to roll the dice. So the third one is I'm too busy, right? I'm too busy to invest. I'm too busy to actually looking towards understanding exactly what I want to get into. So I'll just make someone else do it. Now, nothing's too wrong with this one. If anything, this is probably maybe the most common type of investment. So a person who comes across a large sum of money, they're not too educated on what to do with it. So they basically send it to a private investor or their investment bank in order to do it for them. Now, chances are you can get a return, but you're always going to have to split it with the person who's investing your money. So, you get the benefits of both worlds. You have the benefit of financial advice, and you can sort of claim that someone actually knows exactly what's going on within the market or within the investment area. So you're working with a professional versus you being the professional, right? But you do have to split the profit. So there's pros and cons to that one as well. The fourth type is the professional. So this is the person who very much values their investments. It's probably their number one priority in life. They care about increasing their net worth first. So they become the expert themselves. They understand the market trends. They know exactly what they're willing to invest into, what industries, maybe what types of business that they're going to go into. This is probably the best type of investor until you start moving into like the ridiculous amounts. Now, the fifth one, which probably has where the most profit about, it's about capital level. So if you've ever heard of investment groups, for example, like a lot of celebrities are a part of them, like Schwarzenegger Capital and so on and so on and so on. This is where a group of professional investors who have made a large sum of money through other business ventures and investments come together and start investing as a group. Because whenever you're dealing with large, copious amounts of money, obviously pulling it together, you're able to profit further as a team. So that's obviously the highest level. That's the highest level of investment that there possibly is, and something that a lot of people should strive for. But obviously you're going to have to work your way up by developing your own types of income first. I highly suggest you become a professional so you know exactly what it is, the industries that you're investing into, so you have a level of understanding versus having to split it with someone else. And because essentially everyone's going to claim they're the expert rather than you being understanding. And at the very least, you understand the risk, you understand the exact things, and you can learn from your mistakes rather than someone else making the mistakes with your money and you not learning, other than just not to trust that person. So to summarize, basically the Cashflow Quadrant identifies the different types of incomes that are out there, and the active side and this passive side. Depending on what you value depends on what you're going to fall into. I highly suggest that if you're looking towards financial freedom, you look towards the passive side. If you're looking towards job security, always being sort of making sure that you do get that paycheck, I would stay towards that active side. They both have their benefits, they both have their cons. And the next thing is that basically if you are looking towards going to the investment types of quadrants, understand what type of investor you want to be, right? There's always going to be the person with zero financial intelligence. This is someone that you definitely do not want to be. Okay, the second person is someone who's a saver. Now, savers, they're basically playing to not lose. So this is also someone that you don't want to be, right? If you're going to do something, do it 100%. The third one is someone who's basically make someone else invest for them, which is fine, especially if you don't have a lot of time, right? But I highly suggest you look towards becoming the professional, so you understand the investments that you're going into so you can learn from your mistakes. And the fifth one is a capital investor. This is the long-term goal where you have enough money to the point where in order to make these large deals, it's best to come together as a team and make decisions and make investments together. Anyways, guys, that's it for Quick Notes with Chris. Still look out for other videos in order to improve yourself and put yourself in a better position for success. Thanks, guys. I'll see you in the next video.